Hi, everyone. Today we're talking about organizational maturity and project management. We're going to talk about the definitions of both, and then we're going to talk about the relationship between the two, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more of a deep dive into the different dimensions of what we're talking about when we say organizational maturity. And then we're going to give a little bit of a intro. I know it's a short presentation of the cost of transition and how these things, how the relationship looks mathematically to a project lifecycle. Before I go deep into organizational maturity, well, project, we're going to touch on very lightly. I'm sure everyone in the group is pretty well up to speed on what a project is. It's a temporary endeavor, a one-time process. It produces a unique result. The organizational maturity piece is not as often talked about when we talk about project management. A lot of people talk about how do we make the project go better? How do we make the project succeed? How do we reduce our failure rate? But generally, this starts before that, which is based on your organizational maturity. There are certain projects that just are not open to you. And that's the conversation I'm highlighting in this presentation that we don't talk about enough, which is to say, you could have the best project manager and you could have the best crafted project. There's certain levels of maturity that an organization have, which would basically preclude you from being able to be successful at a project at any level of complexity. And that's sort of what we have to discuss if we're being honest based on the context that we're working in. So an organizational maturity model, there's no one standard, but what we're talking about is describing where an organization is as it evolves through its ability to do more complex project work, as it is able to operate at increasing scales and increasing complexity. And it generally, you want to associate low maturity to like you would a person, to somebody who is less experienced. They're less able to adapt to differing contexts and scenarios. Whereas on the other side, you have a mature organization that has experience executing things under duress. It can do more complex projects. It can coordinate more complex efforts. And that's really what we're highlighting here. So just a sample from an org maturity model as we're talking about it through the project management lens. On the bottom, you kind of talk about organizations that are chaotic, where they don't really have a cohesive culture around project management, or really could be in general. And the decision making is very reactive. There's vague governance and leadership structures. We don't really have resources that are strongly associated with particular functions or areas. It's just everyone, it's a free-for-all. Everyone is going to just pitch in when they can. This could be a very early stage startup, but this could also be small and mid-sized companies that have been with a fair bit of tenure. It really just depends on the kind of mechanisms a company has in place to assign projects versus operating resources. And I've seen companies in my consulting times at scale, like thousands of employees, they have no PMO, they have no formal project management, they don't have any resources assigned to projects. So chaotic maturity model can really be anyone in their life cycle. It's really how much effort have they put into thinking about how they're going to manage and work with projects versus their day-to-day operations. And then, it scales through various levels. And I won't go through all of these in detail. If anyone would like a copy of this deck, I'll say it again at the end, but you can feel free to email me and I'm happy to send it to any of the attendees. But you have then ad hoc, organized, managed, and then I'm going to go up to agile, which if you think going from chaotic and you go through this continuum up to an agile maturity, that's what everyone is looking for in the present day, which is we need to have projects that are ongoing continuously. They're iterative, but they have strong objectives. We have mature teams who actually know their part in the project. They have their functional responsibilities and accountabilities, and project work is getting done at a pretty fast level, and they can tackle complex work. And they have the right people, they have the right staffing, they have the right ability to reach out for contractors if they need them. That's more of your agile organization. So whatever organization you are, I'm going to break it down into more intuitive. So this fitness example, I'm going to talk a lot about organizational maturity from, let's say I'm a project manager that's embedded in the organization. Sometimes you're not going to be able to, at a glance, say, okay, my organization is ad hoc versus organized versus chaotic. It may not be something that is easily intuitive to you. But what I usually encourage people is you've got to really know, just have like a level of self-awareness, just as if you were in an individual context. When you're in an organizational context, it's the same thing. So if you talk about fitness and you think about the organizational context on a continuum, are we out of shape? Are we unhealthy? Are we in a position where we're not really able to do a lot of physical activity? It's kind of that analogy. So if you look at this, I'm trying to be evocative in this diagram, which is if I'm out of shape and unhealthy, I'm not going to try to run a marathon tomorrow. If I'm lifting a 5-pound weight, I'm not going to enter a weightlifting competition tomorrow. But we do this with project work all the time. And that's where that maturity aspect, we're not really grappling with it. So if I've had a history of failure with large tech implementations, I'm kind of not, I don't have the capability, but then why would we plan that project thinking that it would be possible to do? So these are the conversations that we're getting really early on in the thinking, saying, do we have the capability, the maturity to take on X initiative? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter how much project planning or wishing that you want to do. You're not going to go from out of shape to in shape instantaneously. It's a process that has to be iterative. So if you look at it more, this diagram here, what I'm trying to explain, and you start to get a more relational sense of what I'm talking about. When you're low maturity, it doesn't mean you can't do projects. It just means that you have to have goals that make sense at your maturity level. So if you're thinking about this dart analogy, if I'm a dart player and I'm low maturity, a beginner is going to want to get closer if they're going to hit a bullseye, because they don't have the accuracy. They don't have the capability. If they stood really far back and were just throwing Hail Marys, they'll hit the goal maybe once in a blue moon. But this is sort of the explanation to why projects are in such a high failure state, because they're not really planning according to their maturity. So if you even think about, I've even put one more dimension where if you think about time and scope as the distance here in our dartboard analogy, if I'm a beginner, I want my time and scope to be smaller so that I can achieve my goal and I can maybe hit the goal. That would be appropriate. But again, a lot of times organizations are not having this conversation first. They want to have the conversation what the organization needs, not what is it capable of doing. As you grow in maturity, then you have more expertise institutionalized, and you can step away and create more complex projects. So if you look at the scenario on the right, where I'm now an expert at darts, I can stand at the other side of the bar and I can fling the darts and I can still hit my goal. So it's sort of a great analogy for here's time and scope. I can have more time and more scope, more complexity. And one would think that with that expertise and that maturity, I can still hit my goals, and I know what I can achieve and I know what I probably can't achieve. So now if we take that dart example, or even you could say the fitness example, and keep moving them forward, now let's talk about how that relationship is really related to operations versus projects. So we know as project people, when I'm in an organization, my operations are always running.
Hi there, hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.